Thank you very much for inviting me to share my perspective and mine and Sir John Fraser's perspective. You will meet him tomorrow. I want to thank Andrew Ong for inviting us to present quite a different perspective than you may used to be seeing, to bring this into the conversation. So the purpose of today's remarks is to really give you a sneak preview of what is going to happen tomorrow, because the bulk of the activity will take place tomorrow in terms of some instruction and also a workshop type experience where you'll actually have the opportunity to learn how to do this customer research, customer discovery. So let me just go forward here. So the term customer discovery might be a new term to you. And really what it is, it's a qualitative market research, okay, where you speak directly to potential customers. We actually have conversations. I was listening to Professor Ganguly's presentation, and I'm going like, wow, that's fantastic. But I also, and I heard him say that the path ahead is very dangerous and treacherous. And that's true. However, if you use the techniques that I will show you, the path ahead will be less dangerous and less treacherous, because you will talk directly to customers and validate your knowledge of how GI is perceived and workable in new markets. And I'll have some more comments to say about this soon. Okay, so what is customer discovery? Okay, customer discovery is, look, we've got these products, okay, and we're very passionate about these products. In fact, some products may have benefited from some, I heard the word innovation or even technology. We're all passionate about what we have developed, something that works for us. But when we're trying to get other people to adopt and or buy what we have, we're focused on our own selves, our own products. And what we have to do with customer discovery is we have to get out of the building, get out of our office, get out of our head, and talk to the very people who will be consuming and or purchasing these products, to understand their perspective, to understand their bias, to understand what is it that they need, okay, before they will actually buy. Okay, I even, and I heard Professor Ganguly's talk about, needing to educate the customer. I don't assume that just because I've got something that's terrific that the customer is going to want it. I want to understand, what do they need in terms of absorbing the information that I have? Is it brochures? It might be brochures, but maybe part of the population is illiterate. So having brochures with just pure written text in their language may not even make sense. Maybe we need to look at a series of pictures or images or video. Or in some countries, for example, pot songs. I believe it's in Bangladesh. They go around with a scroll, and they unfurl the scroll, and they sing songs, locally relevant songs, to tell a story about something that they want to communicate. So we don't, in customer discovery, what we want to do is we want to test the assumptions that we make about other people and their priorities. And we use the scientific method to do that. we create a hypothesis, or in more layman's terms, we make an assumption about people's behavior. Then we research that by going to talk to them, and we test to see if it's valid. And we don't have necessarily a bias about whether it is valid or not. It's more the validity, or we're verifying whether the assumption is correct. If it is correct, great. If it isn't, well, that just points us in a different direction. And what we're trying to do is be curious and interested in the other person and in their language, in their culture, in their purchasing behavior, so that we can align our approach, our marketing, so it meets their needs. I mean, that's really what it is. And what we're trying to do is to learn what it takes to get them to buy. That's what we're trying to do. Okay, but the way we do it is it's a very focused, attentive, curious. We're really trying to understand all the parts about the customer, related to, why would they buy a product from us? What characteristics of our product have interest for them? Okay, so we'll talk more about that tomorrow, but like I said, I'm giving you a sneak preview. So the customer discovery is about one-to-one directly talking with potential customers. Now, as Professor Ganguly said, there could be thousands or millions of customers. You're not going to go talk to every single one, but what you're going to do is you're going to talk to people who represent segments within the customers. Okay, so you might talk to 10 people or 5 or 10 people who represent a particular demographic or segment of the customer groups. Okay, you might also talk to, I think I heard Mr. Levu, he talked about the success in forming relationships to selling into China, and making connections with the banking and financial services in order to sell GI. Well, if you're going to work with different government organizations or different suppliers in banking and financial services, you actually have to go talk to them. It's not just end user customers, it's potential customer groups within the supply chain. What do they need in order to work with you? Just because you've got a great GI, it's not as important as how do you organize your pricing, your ordering, the security or compliance, so that it meets the needs, the organizational needs of the customer group you want to talk to. In that particular case, banking and financial services. So what we're trying to do is to make sure that your GI branding strategies are effectiveness, and how you can make the product more attractive and distinctive relative, not to its own merits and not to what has been successful in your home country, but what is more successful in the new country. And you want to learn directly from customers how to improve sales effectiveness. Now, I want to give you one particular example, but when I heard Professor Ganguly's talk, it reminded me of when he was talking about promoting a sort of local artisan, sort of handloom sort of creations. I think he was talking about saris. I want to give you an example that I experienced and I worked with a lady, an entrepreneur, a young lady entrepreneur from Sri Lanka. And she had developed a technology with the University of Maratua, one of the country's top engineering schools. And she created a technology to make multicolored handloom designs. And she was very excited, and as was the university, about this new innovative way of making handloom designs. But she was having trouble getting traction in the market. So I was asked by John Fraser from WIPO to come and um, talk to her to help her figure out how she could better commercialize her innovation. And one of the things I said to her is like, let's go talk directly to the customer. And so she went down to the department store and she talked to the people who were selling these types of designs. And one of the things that she learned was that, and this was mentioned before, that quality was really important. But she didn't realize how important that word was. And what we did is we looked at how we can improve quality, not just for the brand, not just for the actual, um, you know, she makes saris and pants and tunics, tops, but how we could embed quality across the customer experience so that the customer would have a very high quality experience from ordering, from the design, from the customer service, to the post-sales customer service, to how they were treated in purchasing these designs. And it turned out that was really the key. It was quality across the customer experience, not just quality of the materials, but quality throughout the whole relationship. Okay, so let me move on. Okay, so I'm going to give you an example here of a medical device company. Now, I know most, if not all of the people represented are not focused on technology, but this is just an example of a company that I'm working with. They're from Europe. I won't say the particular country because I continue to work with them. But anyway, so they have this amazing technology, this totally life-changing technology. And they had, in their home country, when they got going, they started off with a pre-order campaign. They put up a landing page on the internet, and they made a video of their device, and they were recognized in their country. They won all these kinds of awards saying that their technology was the most amazing technology going, okay? And they had also heard that somebody else had done something similar. They created this landing page e-commerce campaign, and they had gone to the US market, and they were a wild success. So of course they thought to themselves, well, hey, well, why don't we do the same? We've got this great technology. We'll just put up a website, and we'll be a raging success, and we'll conquer the U.S. market without even going there. Now, you see, I'm laughing because, first of all, they were extremely arrogant, but more importantly than that is they made all these assumptions that they never bothered to test. So they go in, they launch this campaign. They told their investors they're going to be so successful. There's all this, the U.S. market, it's a $400 million opportunity. They launch this pre-order campaign. What happens? Nothing. Zero. It was a 3 month campaign. They got the advertising agency involved. Nothing. They didn't get anything. Okay. And you know, I apologize for laughing, but look, if we assume that our GI products are the greatest thing since sliced bread, then we're going to fail. And my job is to help you not to fail, is to help you to navigate those dangerous and treacherous waters that Professor Ganguly said he talked about, to level the playing field, to make it more likely that you're going to be successful. And by talking directly to customers, you actually begin to find out, oh gosh, you know, there are these regulations that are going to affect whether or not I can export or import, you know, into another country. There are barriers, and I got to find out what they are. And so through the discovery, we're going to talk to customers. We're going to talk to government people who are real allies for us in identifying people to talk to, okay, and facilitating some of those connections that give us some inside access to what the real situation is, what the reality is, so on the ground. So to test our assumptions, to validate them, to verify if our thinking about the market matches up with the reality, okay? Because otherwise, it's going to be a long, tough, difficult slog, and you're going to, otherwise, you'll find things out in a linear way. In other words, you'll go down the track, you spend, you know, 1 or 2 or 3 years trying to figure this out, and then you get into the market, and by then your data is 1 or 2 or 3 years older, and it's not valid. So anyways, enough. I'll let me go forward. Okay, so this is an example. You know, a picture tells 1,000 words. Imagine you're all excited about your GI. You create all these plans, you know, etc., and then it fails. And then the party's over. Then you have to go back to your investors and tell them the bad news. And it's probably be bad news for you, you know, personally. So we want to avoid that. And the customer discovery is a great way of really avoiding that. It's like insurance, you know. Okay, so there's 3 elements for sales success. Obviously, it's you want to research and plan, do your homework, identify people who can help in the markets you want to go into, and you also have to make sure that you have inventory available, okay? You need time and money to make mistakes, especially when things don't go according to plan, and they will. And then you need a budget in foreign currency set aside for international expansion. And as I mentioned, government people are our friends, okay? They have access to information, to databases, to trade fairs, to contacts in other markets, and also contacts with other governments who can make things easier for us. Okay. Whoops. So the next thing is so tomorrow what we're going to do is I'm going to give a bit of a recap. I'm going to cover what I talked about today, but then each of you are going to experience what customer discovery is, okay? If I was to teach you how to play soccer, you know, you can't become a great soccer player by reading a book or watching a presentation. You become a great soccer player by doing and getting feedback, by getting the experience. So we're going to do a small role play, and we want to give you a taste of what the customer discovery is. So the entire group will be divided into 3 small groups, and then there's some specific roles that some people will take on the role as vendors, small and medium-sized enterprises. some people will be customers and other people will represent government trade policy officers. There'll be an activity, and then each group will designate a reporter who will then share the findings of the group in a plenary, like to the entire audience, and then we'll wrap up. We'll have an icebreaker activity. Actually, I think we may have deleted this because we want you to spend as much time as possible in the groups, but we'll talk about that tomorrow. And I guess we've already done that. Okay. And then what we'll do is we're going to present to you a case study of a GI branded shrimp. Okay, so we're not going to take a case study from somebody existing. We're just going to do something hypothetical so that we can all be in the same level. And the WIPO facilitators, and there'll be a facilitator in each group from WIPO, and they'll launch discussions and explain how people in each role will answer the questions, okay? So the people that represent the customers will ask vendors to find out what is unique about the shrimp, okay? The vendors will ask the government people how they can assist in understanding particular new markets. And the government and trade policy people will ask questions of the others about how to facilitate awareness and sales, okay? Now, what we're trying to do here is, when you're listening to this about this roles here, you may wonder, well, gee, I could end up being, a vendor, and I don't really understand, that's not the role I typically take, okay? But that's okay, because, what we're trying to simulate is that not everybody has the answers, okay? And that's usually the case. Even if you're in the role you are, not everybody has the answers. And the way we get the answers is to talk directly to people, okay? So that's what's going to happen tomorrow, and we hope you'll be successful. We hope you'll enjoy the experience, and I think that's enough for now. Okay.
So thank you for your presentation. So see you tomorrow on your session. Today, unfortunately, we run out of the time of the seminar. Thank you very much.
Okay, does anybody have any questions or anything?
Is anybody have any questions? Yes.
Good morning, Mr. Fisher. Okay, thank you for your presentation. I really like customer discovery. If we know what kind of thing that customer need, then we try to do something for their need, it is successful, I believe. So anyway, as part of the producer or anything to do thing for customer, I myself love to do simplify, to make things easier, to make it easy, and something new for them. Yeah. Am I right or wrong? Thank you, Mr. Fisher.
Well, of course you're right. Okay, so of course you're right. I want to say is, let's think about, the simple act of communicating to another person and learning about what's important to them is so powerful. It's universal. You show interest to another person about what it is they do, how do they do it, what works and what doesn't work, they will feel heard. And when they feel heard, that's when we move beyond the simple act of communicating till we start to hear nuances or insights, which I can help you to discover, that are essential. So let's say, for example, you're trying to sell, some GI clothing, okay? And somebody says, they say to you, when I go to a holiday celebration, I like to be reminded of a connection with my family, of my historical family, that I'm part of a line of history in my own family. And I want to have my clothing represent that experience. And then you go, oh, so you mean, like, if you were going to wear a sari, you might want to have a particular stone, okay, or design, or family crest, okay, or texture, or whatever, okay, that represents your family history. And then the person goes, yes. Okay? So this is where look, talking to people is simple. Listening to people, it's a little more difficult because we're all so busy. We're on our phones, I mean, my wife, she's on her iPad all the time. It's a relationship breaker. Okay. I want to communicate directly to her, and I want the experience of feeling heard, because this will tell me to her that, I'm most important. But then, as she's talking, and as the people you're speaking to speak, your job now is to listen, but in a different way, okay? Your job is to listen, not just to their words, but to their body language, okay? Sometimes when people talk, they get all red under here, particularly before they speak publicly, but they get all red. And so you can say, oh, well, gee, maybe this is very important to them, or maybe there's some emotional content that I need to pay attention to, or maybe they have some anxiety, okay? Body language is 7/10 of communication. It's not the words that are important, it's what they say, okay? Or so we have to pay attention to that. And then as people become more relaxed and feel that you have their back, that you can be trusted with the content they're going to share, they're going to reveal more information. They're going to say, well, you might say, oh, well, have you worked with other suppliers? Well, of course they have. And you say, well, what was your experience there? What would you have loved, or what would you have liked that they would have done to make it easier to do business with them? Okay? Because a lot of times when people sell their products, they're not thinking of the customer. They're thinking about, oh, well, if I increase the margin here, I'll make so much more money. And then they're populating their own spreadsheet. Okay? But they're not thinking about the customer. Let me give you a quick example, okay? So I work with this other, it's a technology company, and they're working in hospitals, okay? And I asked them about their pricing. Now, whatever anybody says about pricing, unless they've done in-depth analysis, most people, they don't even know why they price something. They might be pricing against a competitor, but a lot of times they don't know. And in particular in technology companies, they don't know. So, but I know something about his sector. And I said to him, oh, are you pricing? So in hospitals, the way it works is that you can you can sell a set of licenses, seats, up to, I think it's 25,000, just under 25,000 US, okay? And the reason for that is it's sole source. So you can go to any hospital in the US, get a sole source, one signature, approval for a contract under 25,000. So that's how he's pricing. Now his software may be worth 100,000. It won't sell anything, but because he understands the way the hospital buys, he's adjusted his pricing. And again, I think Professor Ganguly, somebody else mentioned business model. This is part of the business model, is to figure out what are the parts of the business model, what are our assumptions around the business model that make the most sense or don't make any sense. So again, you can have the greatest product in the world, but if you don't figure these things out by talking directly to the customer, you're not going to be, I won't say you'll fail, but you're going to have a really tough time. Okay, and that treacherous place, that's where the treacherous is. Okay, but the customer discovery will really level the playing field. So I don't know. I gave you more information, but so it's simple, but it's not so simple. But I'm here to guide you. Does that help?
All right.